it's a good question to start with, for a number of reasons. There is a simple answer and there is a complex answer. The simple answer is any installation, terminal, facility that serves a purpose in providing services to the community. And that is pretty straightforward. We can think of ports, seaports, sea installations, airports, aviation sector, transportation, all these assets that provide services to the community. A more complex reply would be to try to classify critical infrastructure. And as we shall see in the interview today, there are reasons for this complexity. But purely to answer the question, we have to, in my opinion, in my view, we need to consider critical infrastructure as assets that are operated by operators, whether public or private, which provide services, essential services, sometimes critical services to society and lesser communities, if you like. But also, as we shall continue to see, the arguments become a bit more complex when we start to look at critical infrastructure from a broader perspective. The protection of critical infrastructure nowadays has been integrated into what is fast becoming known as resilience. Resilience is a fantastic word, if you like, a catchphrase, if you like, that manages to express this idea that critical infrastructure needs to be protected. And it needs to be protected at multiple levels. We need to protect critical infrastructure at the strategic, tactical, and operational levels, meaning at very high levels of management, intermediate levels, what is actually known as top management, but then also the day-to-day operational level of management. Unless these three elements interact, we can have no effective protection of critical infrastructure. Increasingly, as our systems become more complex, as we build bigger systems, as we continue to construct more complex systems that interact between themselves, integrating data with technology and providing ever more exciting, if you like, and value-adding outputs. As we continue along this pathway, two very important elements come into play. And here I am referring to the political element and the legal element. The political element helps shape the ground within which critical infrastructure operates, whilst the legal aspect regulates critical infrastructure itself, particularly in relation to its performance and its protection. Hence the word resilience, a big word that is emerging very fast, but I happen to believe that it is a very strong and powerful way of expressing the protection of the importance of protecting critical infrastructure. Now, this is a really interesting question. We are midway through the interview, if you like, and I think it is probably the most important question by far. When we talk about stakeholders, when we view the stakeholder chain, if you like, that interacts with critical infrastructure, it is very important that we view it holistically. We need to look at upstream. We need to look at who provides these services, okay, who is protecting these critical infrastructures, the roles that are playing, how people interact together. So we have our upstream component. We have the hub itself, the operational level. So these installations, the terminals, the transportation chains that provide us with the actual services themselves, these are operated by people. Okay, these are operated by safety managers, security directors, compliance managers, risk managers, safety committees, security committees, risk committees. So a lot of people come into play in terms of being stakeholders at the, what I like to call the cutting edge, the coal face side of things. And then we have the end users themselves. Then we have the communities that are serviced by critical infrastructure. Energy, of course, needs to power up cities. Water needs to be driven, needs to arrive at where it is required, and so on and so forth. Animals need to be fed. Productions need to be sustained. We tend to take a lot of this for granted, in my view, and also in my operational experience. The idea of bringing together multiple stakeholders in understanding the risk and creating effectively a risk management value chain, I believe will gain more momentum as the resilience element continues to grow. If I could answer this question, it would solve everything. So it would remove the joy from the interview. Where the main focus, this is a very tough one. Personally, from the way I operate and the way I have seen things come together on large projects and in large complex infrastructures, as we have seen, a number of players need to interact. Okay, so that is perhaps the first focus. We need to really understand what we are doing. So the design stages of risk management frameworks, design stages are ever so important. But also, and I say this very guardedly and with a lot of respect to all the stakeholders, the competence levels of the main players, if you like, need to be in place, because risk in itself is very complex, and also it is subjective. Whichever way we care to look at risk remains subjective. It will always depend on judgment, and at best it should depend on value judgment, people reasoning correctly in a systematic way to try and make sense of effectively something that doesn't exist. And here I may start to sound a little bit too theoretical, but what I am saying is actually very simple. Risk, when you think about it, does not exist in real terms. It may happen, an event may happen, a terror attack may happen, a chemical incident may happen, an earthquake may happen, a tsunami may happen. They may happen. We may even have strong indicators that they probably will happen at some point in time. But then again, they might not. So the play is on the probability side of things. It may happen, but at the same time, it might actually not happen. And this is a very important thing to understand, that for risk management to be effective, in order for us to actually leverage the benefits of risk management, we need to tap into this value chain. We need to actually protect infrastructure for the better. We need to produce more resilient infrastructure. And that, to me, is where the main focus should reside. Of course, we're going to invest in time, resources, people, financial resources. Just this morning, I was part of a committee that was defending a decision relating to expenditure in a security system, and I had to state the case for my stakeholder, for my client. And I found myself not really needing to convince the committee, because they were very positive, but explaining to the committee that the investment in security had to be seen as an investment, had to be seen as a way of protecting that particular asset from a security, for security, ideally throughout its life cycle. I find this extremely exciting, and really the questions are very well put. So thank you. Personally, from a professional perspective, I am a great fan of standards. Okay, starting with ISO 9001, the core management system. The ISO 31000 family of standards for risk management has built upon the core QMS, if you like, quality management system, and integrated a number of key elements relating to risk, in such a way that a number of systems have then resulted from your mainstream, if you like, quality management system. So today we have ISO 14001 environmental management systems, 45001 health and safety management systems, 27001, which is information security management systems, 28001, which is supply chain security systems, and a number of other standards that are in place. 22301 comes to mind. There is a standard for resilience, which the number of which currently escapes me. But there is a whole range of standards, and these are fantastic. They are very useful. They provide an excellent means for professionals to look at best practice and try to understand how to apply it to their particular situation, what is called context. I wish we could ask this question in another interview, the role of context in risk management. So standards are there to really help us in shaping these risk management frameworks and applying them into practice. So they're great. But going back to the previous question, the competence levels to actually effectively implement these frameworks, the leadership essential to committing towards these frameworks have also to be in place. And I feel that these are two key areas, particularly in public risk management. So competence levels and leadership. I feel that these are two areas which would benefit from significant attention moving forward. As I said, the whole point of resilience and risk management within resilience is the protection of critical infrastructure, which ultimately means ensuring that our communities are safe.